In today's tutorial we're going to be learning how to crochet this cluster flower hexagon. Start your hexagon with a slip knot using your preferred method. This is how I prefer to make my slip knots. And then make a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you are a particularly tight crocheter, I'd recommend doing a chain of 5 here instead. Then slip stitch into the first chain to make a ring, so in that stitch there. Now if we pull on this chain ring a little bit, we should open up a hole at the centre for us to crochet round 1 into. So the first 3 rounds of this square are made up of cluster stitches, and the specific cluster stitches we're going to be doing are 3 double crochet clusters, and I will take you through them step by step if you've not made cluster stitches before. So to start round 1, we're going to make something I'm going to be calling a beginning double crochet cluster. So make a chain of 2, 1, 2. That counts as your first partial double crochet. If that doesn't make sense, it will later. Now yarn over and put your hook into the chain ring. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops and stop. So what we've made here is a double crochet, but what we've done is we've not done that final yarn over and pull through to finish off the double crochet stitch. So we've made a partial double crochet, and we're going to make another one back into the chain ring. So yarn over, put your hook into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So you should now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So the stitch we've just made there is a beginning cluster stitch, and we're going to be making one of these at the start of rounds 1, 2 and 3. So now to continue on with round 1, make a chain of 2. 1, 2. We're now going to make a 3 double crochet cluster into the chain ring. It's similar to that cluster we've just made, but it is a little bit different. So yarn over and put your hook into the chain ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So we've just made a partial double crochet again, and we're going to make 2 more partial double crochets. So yarn over, put your hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We've now got 2 partial double crochets. Yarn over, put your hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We've now made 3 partial double crochets, and we've got 4 loops on our hook. To finish off the 3 double crochet cluster, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So that was a 3 double crochet cluster stitch, and you can see it looks very similar to our beginning cluster. So we're now going to repeat those steps around. So chain 2, 1, 2, and then make another 3 double crochet cluster into the chain ring. So I'm going to make my first partial double crochet just like we did previously, and a second partial double crochet, and then a third partial double crochet. Then I've got 4 loops on my hook and 3 partial double crochets. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So we're going to repeat this around until we've made a total of 6 3 double crochet clusters with 6 chain 2 spaces between them. So continue around, and I'll meet you back at the end of round 1. Don't forget that if you are new to cluster stitches, you can slow down this tutorial and rewind it, or if you want to do a bit of a deeper dive into cluster stitches, I have a whole tutorial about them that I'll link up in this top corner here. So I have now made my 6 cluster stitches and 6 chain 2 spaces between them, and I've just done a chain 2. We're now going to fasten off as we normally would with any crochet. So I'm going to put my hook into the top of that cluster stitch here, so I'm going in just there underneath both of the loops at the top of the stitch, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. Then this part's optional. I then like to make a chain 1 when I fasten off. Snip your tail to approximately 6 inches for weaving in later, then use your crochet hook to pull that tail through that chain 1 and give it a pull to tighten up. So now that is round 1 finished and we're ready to start round 2. To start round 2, put your hook into any chain 2 space. It doesn't matter what space you go in here. I like to do one quite far away from where I fastened off so I've got space to weave my tails in. Then lay your yarn tail across your hook like this. Use your tail to pull up a loop of the new colour yarn, and then we're ready to start crocheting round 2. I like to hold my yarn tail next to where I'm about to crochet to weave my ends in as I go. We're going to be making that beginning cluster stitch again, the one we did right at the start of round 1. So I will take you through that again just to remind you. So chain 2, and then we're actually going to make that 2 double crochet cluster next to it because that chain 2 counts as the first partial treble crochet of our cluster stitch. So yarn over, put your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And that's our beginning cluster stitch done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move it over to this side so I've still got space to crochet into that chain 2 space. So next, chain 2. Then make a 3 double crochet cluster back into that same space. So I'm going to make those 3 partial double crochets just like we did in round 1. And then I've got 4 loops on my hook, so yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So there's my cluster stitch crocheted. Now chain 2, and in the next space work a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 2, 3 double crochet cluster. So that same cluster stitch we've been doing with the 3 partial double crochets. So I'm going to make my first cluster stitch, just there, chain 2, and then another cluster stitch back into that same space. And then chain 2. And I'm going to repeat this all the way around, making a chain 2, a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 2, 3 double crochet cluster, all into the same space. So repeat that all the way around until you've made a total of 12 cluster stitches and 12 chain 2 spaces. Then fasten off just like we did at the end of round 1, and I'll meet you back here for round 3. So this is what your crochet should look like at the end of round 2. And to start round 3, you need to join your yarn to any of the chain 2 spaces, but we need to be careful with what chain 2 spaces we're looking at here, because we do have chain 2 spaces that are between 2 cluster stitches that are worked into the same space below, so these chain stitches here, but we also have these chain spaces between those sort of corner groups, because this is going to become the corner of our hexagon here. So we've got these spaces sort of along the side of our hexagon, and if you have trouble working out which space is which, you might want to pop a stitch marker into those corner spaces like this, obviously locking them. I'm not locking them here for the purposes of demonstration, but just pop your stitch markers in just to mark where the corner spaces are. So I'll just pop those out. So make sure you're putting your hook into one of those corner spaces, those spaces between the 2 clusters that are worked into the same space, and then join the next colour yarn just like we did at the beginning of round 2. To start round 3, make a chain of 2, 1, 2, and we're going to make one of those beginning cluster stitches again. So I'm going to make 2 more partial double crochets into the same space. So that's 1, 2. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's exactly the same as what we did at the start of round 1 and round 2. Then chain 2 and work a cluster stitch back into that same space, that same cluster stitch, the 3 double crochet cluster stitch that we've been doing. And this is what you're going to do, that group there, into each of those corner spaces. Next, chain 2, and the next space is that space along the side of our hexagon. So we're just going to make one cluster stitch into it. So that same cluster stitch we've been doing. And then chain 2. And then the next space is a corner space, that space between the two clusters that are in the same space there. So I'm going to work that corner group into it. So a cluster stitch, chain 2, and then a cluster stitch. So then we're going to repeat these steps around. So I'm going to chain 2, and if the next space is along the side of my hexagon, so it's in a space between those corner groups, you work one cluster stitch, then chain 2, and then if the space is a corner space, you work that corner group of cluster stitch, chain 2, cluster stitch. So continue working all the way around until you've made a total of 18 cluster stitches and 18 chain 2 spaces, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Fasten off just like we did at the end of round 1. This is what your hexagon should look like at the end of round 3. And for round 4, we're now finished with the cluster stitches. Round 4 is double crochets. So to join your next colour yarn, do exactly what we've done previously, is find a corner space, so that space between the two clusters that are worked into the same space there, and then join your yarn just as we did at the beginning of the previous rounds. Start round 4 with a chain of 3. This counts as your first double crochet stitch. Now work another double crochet stitch back into that same chain space. I'm going back in there to make one double crochet. Next, chain 2, 1, 2, this is your corner space. Then work 2 double crochets back into that same corner space. So 1, 2. Into the next space, work 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and do the same in the next chain 2 space as well, so 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then you should now be up to a corner space, and in the corner spaces you're going to work a corner group of 2 double crochets, 1, 2, then work a corner space of chain 2, then work 2 more double crochets back into that same corner space. 1, 2. And then you're going to repeat this all the way around on all 6 sides of your hexagon, and then fasten off with your preference of a slip stitch or an invisible join. And this is what your hexagon will look like once you've finished. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know down in the comments what you're going to make with your hexagons. I'll see you again in another tutorial.